My friends, welcome back to another episode of Factorio, and unless I've overlooked something, this episode is very important for our advancement here, because we should be getting into logistics. There is some research I'm going to do here. We're going to be unlocking some more logistics slots, some trash slots, and our worker robot cargo size, and you'll be seeing exactly how all of this comes into play in this episode, I hope. What we need is these batteries, but we need to get them somewhere else, or we need to get materials over here to make flying robot frames so that we can make some worker and cargo robots. Now, 3 of 4 of those ingredients are actually all the way in the same spot over here, so we may end up having yet another spaghetti belt. And if I could go back in time, I could shift things around and leave a little bit of space so a belt could just neatly run through the middle here. But at this spot, we have 3 of the 4 ingredients for those flying robot frames, and then directly below them we have the advanced circuits and the green circuits again that we need to turn them into 2 different types of robots. So if we look at where the belts are going, it should be pretty easy to get all of those materials over into this space. So I think somewhere around here is where we're going to assemble our robots, but we've got to get the batteries over here, and then once we've done that we can start putting these robots to use. Now remember, we're doing this whole thing without crafting anything, so I've been trying to put every item in the game that we encounter into a chest, at least all of the ones that are useful. That's why we got this area set up like this over here, and I'm hoping in this episode we'll be able to switch over to logistics using some of these chests and robots and no longer have to walk around to find the stuff that we want. Instead, we'll be able to call it from our logistics network right here. I'll be able to request some inserters, and then they will get brought over to me. That is our objective, and it all starts off with creating yet another spaghetti belt full of batteries. These red signals are bad. They mean that we've run out of power generation. I was going to zoom in on the base to show you it throughout, but of course the radars are down, so we can't zoom in, but the radar is up over here. And I've set up some gun turrets in this little area rather than digging a perimeter around this coal patch. This is the coal patch that I talked about in the last episode. As we were starting to run out over here, we've now pretty much run out because the amount going in wasn't enough to keep the steam engines going. So let's go and turn the system back on. At some point we'll upgrade our power system and this won't be a problem again, but for now we're just going to manually fill it up with some of the coal I picked off of the belts in the areas where it hadn't run out. So it just run out coming down to this bit here, which is why it's all off. Okay, excellent. Now another thing that I've done is I've disconnected the network on this side, so it's only going to come from over here. These ones are kicked in straight away, and then our belt from the other side will come in. We've also got the radar active over there now as well, so we're going to start to scan this area. And there's a little bit of pollution forming. I hope it doesn't go too close to any of these. We do have those gun turrets though. And anyway, once the coal from over there arrives, we'll reconnect the network. Alright, the coal's made its way down here. We've got a full belt. I've reconnected the network, and satisfaction isn't very good at the moment. As you can see, that's because there's just so much stuff going on in the base at the moment. I also noticed a mistake that I made last time. We're actually producing tons of sulfuric acid over here, and for some reason I thought one of these machines would be enough. So we can actually scale up the amount of batteries that we can create. But the mistake that I made was that I put a tank over to the side and kind of forgot about it. So the ratio looked good to begin with, but it was filling up the tank. Anyway, you can see the belt going all the way across and then down here. So we're going to set up our flying robot frame construction. So these are the changes that I've made. It's more spaghetti belts and mayhem over in this area, but it all works. I don't have a little chest for storing batteries just yet. I'm going to put that in the area where I currently am, which is down here. As you'll see, I've shimmied things along into some belts and brought these just over here. That gives these two access to the red and green chips, and then these things are made up here. They take 20 to make, so we're not aiming for any efficient ratio here, but I doubled up on the machines just so we can get this going relatively quickly. Now this has given me some construction robots, which we're not ready to use yet, and some logistics, which technically we're also not ready to use, but I'm about to build a Roboport. And then we'll be able to put our logistics robots inside of the Roboport, and there may be a little bit of a problem here, is that we need to fit the Roboports in our base. So why don't I construct them, then I can show you what I'm talking about. So I've constructed our Roboports, and when we put this down, we're going to see a green and an orange area. Now the orange area is the place in which our logistics robots, which we're now making, are going to be able to fly to and pick things out of chests. They can actually fly as far as the green area, but only the construction bots can work in that area. They will be able to construct, as the name would suggest. What I have done in creating all of this is kind of forgotten that at some point I'm going to need to come back and place down a Roboport in the middle of this, but not just one. I need one here, and then where the border ends, somewhere over there, I'm going to need to find another one in this spot. This might be a little bit of a nightmare that I've created for myself, having not thought of that earlier. But what we want to do is have the orange areas overlay all of the chests that we have in our base. That's why we've been doing this around the place. Not only because I can't craft them myself, but because we want to store them and stockpile them and make them available to the logistics networks and the logistics robots, which will then be able to fly to these items and bring them to me, so I don't need to do anything. I can just request them and they come to me, which is absolutely fantastic, as you can imagine. But before we can really get going with that, I've now got this mind-bending puzzle of figuring out where exactly am I going to put these Roboports. Important thing to mention, when I place the next Roboport, we want it to link up with the one before it. So as soon as those orange areas are touching, that's when it's going to be available to do that. So 3 Roboports are in position. We won't worry about the rest of what's going on for now. We're going to focus on grabbing some of these and starting to set up a storage system that allows us to take items and send them back as well. So let's start off down here. We're kind of near the Roboport, and what we can do is plonk one of these storage chests on top of an existing chest, and it will remember all of this, so we don't have to worry about it putting more items in. Now what I want to do is add a logistic filter here, and we're going to try something that I've not done in this game before, which is to then use one of these red wires to create a connection between the inserter and the chest so that they will talk to one another. Okay, so this means that it will be enabled when there is less than 400 of these piercing round magazines. There's 400 in there right now. If we do that, it starts putting some more in. That's fantastic. Maybe I should add some there so we can see it doing its thing. And then when I fill that back up again and it's over that number, it's then going to stop. And we need to set that up for every one of these chests. The reason being is that we only want to store a certain number inside of here, but leave space for the logistics network. So let me give you an example of the magic that we can do with this. We can put our robots in over here. They'll be able to fly to this chest because it's the new type of chest. And over here we can request some of these items. So if I jump this up to more than I have in my inventory, then a horde of robots goes out and brings them over to me. In fact, it's probably going to bring everything because I set the number ridiculously high. Now this stays here, which means if I start to use these items, for example, I use them and there's more available over here, then they come and bring more to me. So we can keep a minimal amount of items in our inventory at all times. That's really cool. Now what we also have are trash slots. So if I decide that I don't actually want these items, then they're going to come and take them away. And guess where they put them? They put them in this chest because it's got a filter on it. Now this may one day become a problem if ever we fill up the chest the whole way, but usually you're just going to spot some robots like hanging around with items on them and just deal with that when it comes. But this method right here is going to be fantastic. It means if we just treat every item with one of those chests, I can both request it and then I can chuck things away as well. So I have spent my time going around and placing in these chests. It's hard to see unless I zoom in. You can see this is kind of yellow. You can see there's a little cable between the two. So they've all been set up the same way. And what I've been doing here is going through this window first of all. So we ignore the bottom row. I've done all of those, all of these, all of those, all of these. I think there's like an exception. I haven't done those two, all of those, and we're not doing the wooden chests either. Over on this side, what I've decided to do is have some chests for redundant items. This might seem a little bit silly, but I figured we'll just put it like this, and if we ever happen to encounter these things, then they've got a home. Maybe I'm dismantling something later on, and I chuck it into the trash slots, they'll be able to head back over here. Also, I don't need that. While I was doing this, I was requesting the things that we needed. and they were getting brought over here, which is fantastic. Now, another thing I'm going to add to that junk pile are these electric poles. I don't want to use them again in the future, and I keep accumulating them. In fact, I have something called auto trash right here, so let's go ahead and take out some of those. I actually made them part of the network, and then kind of changed my mind. You were set to 50, that's right, that's why you haven't done anything yet. Yep, and now you're active. Okay, so we know how that works. There's another advantage to removing this as well. And I don't think we need the wood over here, so all of that's going to go. So back to the auto trash, I now have some electric poles in my inventory. I can add that as an auto trash slot, and it will then put them in here, but it will also keep 50 in my inventory. I've got the 50 down here, so now I'll put it into this space, you can see it. And I can actually just drag that down, and it will automatically move them over here, and vice versa. Maybe not vice versa, maybe you do that bit manually. But anyway, I can go all the way down to 0, and then it'll automatically move everything into my trash slots. If we zoom out, we might see some robots moving. At the moment, our robots are very slow, and I am not seeing where they're coming from. They should come to take these away, but I can't see the robots. Okay, I'm being a dum-dum. I need to set this thing up. In fact, it doesn't have a filter, but it looks at it like it's empty space. So that's really cool. They're getting rid of all of those very slowly. I am going to run away from the robots. Go on, take a few more. But here's the really cool thing. Now when we start to deconstruct things, because we're going to build better systems, when I break this pole, it goes straight into that slot and it doesn't clog up my inventory. So that's an amazing part of the logistics network here. Now there's actually a reason I chose to remove this as well, and that's because we're going to extend this belt down here so it can supply this with the copper wire. Looks like it's actually going to fill up the whole thing, and we're going to trash this right here. We're no longer going to use that. We want to actually use this space right here. You see how we've got our red belts and underground belts? Well, one of the things that I want to research next, and I mistakenly thought I had researched it before I decided to do this very lengthy one that costs 400 potions, is the next level of logistics, which will cost us 300 of those ones. So our system is going to grind till its knees while we get these things in place. But once we have them, we'll be able to upgrade the system just a tiny bit more. So these are going to require lubricant and the other types in front of them, and I'll be able to shimmy this copper around. We'll have enough space here, and of course I've also got to bring in some lubricant from up top, so it's probably just going to come across, come down here, and we'll be producing those in this area as well. So here it is, construction of blue belts and the underground belts has begun. We're going to use this to upgrade our main bus coming through here, transporting the iron and copper so it can have a bigger bandwidth because it moves items faster. Well, we don't have other splitters at the top, and this is something that I forgot about, but I have a solution for. Some things are going to need the red circuits. Also, do you not have lubricant in yet? Maybe it takes the lubricant in once it decides it's actually going to make it, because the other two have got lubricant, but not that one, even though there's a connection. Anyway, what we need to bring red circuits to over here is our logistics robots that bring items to us in our inventory. What we can also do is this bit of research to unlock active providers, requesters, and buffers. And requesters will be able to request items inside of it. We're going to request those advanced circuits, and robots will fly them over to this location. It's not the most efficient way of doing things, but it's fine for our first little base here and supplying us with all the materials for our future builds. So in order to research that, we need a new type of potion. You'll see in my inventory I have a ridiculous amount of copper cables, and over here we have the ingredients right here. So I've stockpiled a whole bunch of batteries that we need to make. I think it's 75 of these in total. I've got all of the copper wires, I've got the speed modules made up in my inventory, and the last thing that we need are the processing units. So if we're making 75, that'll be 225, and I can actually request these because I believe that they have been made in the system, and there go the robots. And with that, the contents are now all inside of this to produce the right amount of science packs. We'll put them in manually just because I'm not really ready to do this yet, but I really wanted to unlock that one particular technology. So I've upgraded this one to the faster type, but it's basically going to take a long time to do this. I can put speed modules in, and they'll get stored there. And then when we're ready, we'll do the research. There's something else I've done that I want to show you as well. So we're planning on having a chest for every single item in the game. So up here we've got one that's set aside for cogs, and it's at the end of our cog belt. So it dumps that stuff onto there. And down here you'll see that we've got iron and copper have been set up as well. So they'll put them onto the main bus whenever I dump them out of my inventory. So often when you're building and moving things around, you end up with things in your inventory that you don't really need. And now the robots will be able to take it away and move them into these chests, which we should see happen. But unfortunately, it doesn't always get the robots from the most optimal place. It looks like it's got them from over there. And now you're going to go and see them dump off the copper, and then it goes back into the system. There's also one for steel over here, and in this spot we got one for the electronic circuit. So my idea is slowly to chip away at every item in each of these screens and get them as part of the logistics network, so we can always call on materials and dump absolutely everything back off into the system as well. So back over here, we ran into a little bit of a problem. As you'll see, these chests haven't filled up, but not much is happening. That's because we've run out of lubricant of all things. So when our system starts to back up and nothing is happening up in this area, then there's no oil being processed to make the lubricant. That's a bit of a oversight that I didn't really think of. But anyway, I've got some of these underground belts and the faster ones as well, and we'll be able to upgrade our main bus, which means we can pump more materials through it. But anyway, heading over in this direction, I've done the same trick that we did a moment ago, which was just putting together enough materials to make some more of these. And this time I'm going to feed them directly into here. So this is going to run very slow, but that's fine because I can just AFK in the world. The thing that I don't quite have enough of is speed modules, because all the green ones were being shimmied up top through this belt all the way around into where we make our blue chips. And we're actually going to make use of those blue chips because what we're currently researching is going to go in the next set of armor which I have researched. So this will give us a portable fusion reactor which costs those blue chips, and this provides an insane amount of power. And I've been doing loads of research, and two of the things that I've researched is the next level up of the power armor, so we can put that inside of it. And we've got ourselves a personal Roboport. This is massive for advancing through the game. We're going to have a Roboport that is attached to us, the player. So the magic of the base is happening. I'm calculating how many materials I need to craft several different things, and then it's all being brought over to me. So right now I'm calculating an exoskeleton, and these other materials are so that we can make 10 energy shields, which then become an energy shield Mark II with some processing units, and 10 batteries, which then become a battery Mark II. And these things down here, for my personal use, I'm not going to automate the creation of in the system, just because materials come from all over the place, right? Like these blue circuits are coming from over there. Maybe in the future that's something we'll do inside of our bigger base. The last thing that I'm going to add here is the personal Roboport. I don't think I've added the gear cogs yet, but I'm going to go in here and just up the materials of these. So I thought I was being smart here. You see, we had unloading for cogs to put spare ones that we trash back onto the belts, but when we want to claim them, this doesn't work because this one's going to take it out unless the belt is full. So I think if we put the same condition onto this, that it has to wait for a certain amount, then it will be active, and the thing is cogs, obviously. No, that doesn't work quite the same way. It's less than, so we've got to swap that the other way around. So it's only going to work when there's 1,000 in here. So this acts like a buffer that can take extra items when we trash them, but also when we request them, they will come to us. And I haven't made my request yet. How many was it? 40. And here come the robots, bringing me the cogs. That's fantastic. I haven't got all of them yet, though. Okay, and now I have all the correct materials. Something very important to always remember, to not make mistakes. Once you've got your materials, clear them from here, because once you start spending them, they will then be brought back into your inventory, because it's always going to keep that minimal amount. Anyway, I will now just set up a crafting bench around here and do everything manually. I've gotten a little bit carried away here. This is our current armor. I thought it would have more inventory space, so we crafted this a moment ago and then I equipped it. So this thing, oh dear, is going to take up too much space. Which means I can't even use this stuff. Right, so we need one more hurdle to get over here, and that is for the next type of power armor. I am such a wally. I've got solar panels being flown over to me. I guess I can cancel this now. I never actually picked up the proper armor. It did strike me as odd that I'd already put it on myself, because I didn't remember doing that. Oh look, we get a bigger inventory as well, and now we get a bigger space. But I've got to undo that because I was starting to organise my inventory, which is why I was trying to make some solar panels to squeeze into that space. But now we will have all the space that we will need. Ah, look at that beautiful night vision right there. Our shield is charging up, and we now have our own personal Roboport. So we are going to grab 50 of these construction robots. These can be used inside of these Roboports, but if you have them in your inventory, they'll be used with your personal Roboport. We can also run faster now as well, which is fantastic. And we're going to use these construction robots to build stuff for us in the future. To give you a little bit of a hint as to the power of them, you can see over here that we've got a mess of unused things, right? If I press B to open this up, we have the deconstruction planner, and I can just do that, and they'll go out, take those apart, and bring them back to my inventory. There's quite a few of them here that are not being used actually. Let's rip out all of those. I guess none of those belts are getting used anymore. Can you see the power? Can you see the automation beginning? Where are they going? Oh yeah, they're taking them over there. Of course they will do that. Fantastic. Anyway, it's not the fastest thing ever. We could build another Roboport and then we could have even more of these active at once. But anyway, this was the objective of this episode, to get logistics up and running, including our own personal logistics. And we can do things like this. Let's say I want to expand my furnace array because I can upgrade all of the belts. Then we can just place that over here. It'll go and construct it for me. And I was about to take that apart manually. I've got to get used to this now. We can just do that and tear that apart right there. Awesome. So obviously what we want to do is upgrade the whole of our belt. And that means we can add more smelters as well, so I'll be adding a few more of those. And I will be taking care of all of that in between episodes, so I'll also start to stockpile on various materials here as we're getting ready to move outside of our base. Our basic beginner one, this one right here. Anyway, that's where we're going to wrap up the episode. If you enjoyed it, then leave a like. As always, thank you for the support, and I'll see you soon in another episode of Factorio. Bye-bye.